Just press the Let's Go Live button. You know what that means. We've got to wait for the tubes to connect themselves all across the fruited plain of the interwebs and the internets. Before we can go ahead and get started, we got some serious business to attend to today. And it's a beautiful Thursday. I'm glad you're here and with us. Come on, tubes. Come on, tubes. Let's get connected all across the interwebs. We got Rumble booting up. We got locals booting up. We're here on YouTube. Hello to our friends on Telegram. I think we can go ahead and get started. So let's do it, shall we? Hello, my friends, and welcome back to yet another episode of Watching the Watchers Live, the show that spotlights misconduct involving police, prosecutors, and politicians. My name is Robert Govea. I'm a criminal defense attorney, and today we're talking about Donald Trump and his testimony, although it was quite short. We're going to get into it because he was there in person. You can see him walking into the entourage as he was making his way into the Southern District of New York. E. Jean Carroll's trial was there for day 4 of testimony. We had it's kind of technically day 5, but they didn't do anything on one of those days. So day 4, we were going to warm up, see what the scene looked like outside the courtroom, and then just jump right into it because Donald Trump was on the stand near the end of the day. Jury's been excused. They're talking about jury instructions, and it was a very interesting trial day. I mean, we're going to hear from Trump. We're going to hear from a witness from Alina called Carroll Martin, and we're also going to hear some cross-examination of Donald Trump himself by Roberta Kaplan. Not a lot of it, but we are going to hear from that. So we're going to get into all that. E. Jean Carroll trial, day 4 coming up. Then we're talking about Texas, what the great state of Texas is doing, because they're not putting up with this Biden border shenanigan nonsense. In fact, Governor Abbott submitted a letter to the public and to the federal government saying the feds have botched their responsibility. They have abdicated their sacred duty. And so therefore, Texas has the responsibility and the obligation to protect their people and their land against foreign invasion. So we're going to read through that letter. We're also going to hear from the governor himself. Greg Abbott came out from Texas, explained a little bit about this today. He's got the full support of his lieutenant governor, Dan Patrick. He was on with Glenn Beck over at the Blaze, and he's saying, we're going to go to the mat on this issue. We're not going to be playing around on this. So be braced for impact. And we've got the Texans. Apparently, the National Guard are installing more razor wire. So they're not letting up. Got a news report there. Fox News was on the scene, and they are reporting in. So all that coming up in the second segment. And then in our, there's more there. We're going to hear from the White House. We're going to hear from Beto. We're going to hear from him. And then the question is, what about these other states? And man, more states just keep jumping in. We were doing our members only morning stream this morning, and I don't know what the number was, but we woke up and it was a certain number. And then we're here at the showtime, and a bunch more states have jumped into this. And you can see whether or not your state is on the list saying we're tired of this illegal immigration. We're going to hear from Louisiana Governor Jeff Landry. He's in support of this. And we're going to hear from Ron DeSantis, who came out with a statement very quickly. And we were surprised to hear that. I mean, he's almost like he's like a normal human again. It's weird. So we'll hear from him. Also, I just saw Trump responded fresh out of the oven. So we've got his True Social post. Put that reminder in there so that we don't forget. I saw that just dropped. So we'll hear from him as well about what's happening in Texas. And then lastly, sometimes these stories just write themselves. And this one did. This woman showed up in Fulton County. You can see what she's pulling out of that bag there. You can see what that is? I cut that GIF off a little bit early to keep your imagination pondering what that is. It's a hot dog, all right? It's a Nathan hot dog. And she showed up in Georgia, and she's roasting Fani Willis with, as you can see there, a Nathan's hot dog. And you know that Fani has a special prosecutor called Nathan. You know what I'm saying? So we're going to go through it. It's absolutely hilarious. This woman just roasts her mercilessly on the floor there with this monster hot dog. It's a big one. You can see it right there. Wow. And so she does this whole little routine. But in all seriousness, people in Fulton County are furious. They're furious about this. This guy came out and he also spoke at the same event. And he said, look, man, this is corruption. We need a full audit. We need to get to the bottom of this. and see what is happening. And then this Georgia senator, he's calling for a wider investigation, and local news sat down with him and they had a conversation with him. He's like, look, is this prosecution for pay? Which is a good name for a scandal. You're prosecuting Trump and his co-defendants for pay, getting $1 million over to Nathan because Fani loves Nathan's hot dogs. Oh gosh, we're gonna have so many of these. It's actually a restaurant. Okay, I looked it up. So, all right, so we've got 3 segments to get into today. We're going to have some good commentary on that last one. I can feel it on my bones. And so we've got a lot to get into today. This morning, we had a great members only stream. We were talking about a lot of fun stuff. I can't even remember what it was, but it was a great stream. What was going on this morning? You know, Biden stuff, Trump stuff, everything else that we can't squeeze in here, we talk about on the morning stream. And so if you want to be a part of that, come and check us out, watchingthewatchers.locals.com. We stream every single morning. 6 days a week. We even do Saturday streams. So come check it out. Watchingthewatchers.locals.com if you're looking for a little extra content and a little amazing community, a lot of amazing community. Also, robertgovea.com is the website. If you want to read any PDFs we go through here, although I don't think we have any today, then you can go there, robertgovea.com. You can also check out our shop, which is available there. You can also read the reports and, of course, sign up for the newsletter. Sign up for the newsletter so you get all this stuff delivered right to your inbox and you don't have to miss a thing. Now, before we get into this, we've got some serious meat and potatoes to dig into today, but we got to be healthy. We got to get our greens. Now, we're over 3 weeks away from the transition into this new year. And we've all resolved, right, to be healthier, to eat healthier. And resolving is the easy part. But the hard part is actually doing it. That's not so easy. We know that better nutrition is key to health and longevity, and a healthy diet could even help you avoid health risks that even run in your family. And Field of Greens, you can see this deliciousness right here. It's my healthy superfruit and vegetable habit. It's the only fruit and vegetable product that literally promises better health. Promises. At your next checkup, your doctor is going to take one look at you, notice your improved health, or guess what? Your money back. Do your other vitamin or green drinks promise better health? No, they don't. Each superfruit and vegetable in Field of Greens, and there's a bunch of them, was doctor selected for a specific health benefit. Some support your heart, some support your lungs, kidneys, others support metabolism, healthy energy, and weight loss. And so if you resolve to get healthier in 2024, it starts with Field of Greens. And so here on our channel, we got you 15% off your first order and free rush shipping. Very easy. Visit fieldofgreens.com. Link is in the description below. Use promo code Robert. That way you save. You get the free rush shipping. And it's code Robert at checkout at fieldofgreens.com. That's fieldofgreens.com. Links are in the description. And of course, let's not forget, the vegetables want to be eaten. That's why they come bursting out of the ground so happy and excited. And this hair is not included, but you'll feel that good. I swear. All right. So my friends, thank you for supporting our sponsors. Links are down in the description below. And now, without any further ado, let's get right to it, because we've got a trial to attend to. Donald Trump testifies in the E. Jean Carroll trial. It's day 4. We've had some health delays. We had a juror who was sick, and when we come back to trial, we're going to see the juror is socially distanced away from everybody else. But we're back. Trump showed up, and he is traveling, as you can see in this GIF, to Southern District of New York. We're in federal court. The case involves E. Jean Carroll, and we've been covering the trial courtesy of Inner City Press, Matthew Russell Lee. Now, before we jump into this, let's take a look and set the scene and see what it was like outside the courtroom. You can see Fox News was there. They had their cameras rolling, and you can see
for day
here
5.
is Trump pulling up. E. Jean Carroll's there in the bottom right. And they go to this guy who's actually on scene.
Good morning, Bill. On this rainy day here in New York City, the former president is in the courthouse behind me. Proceedings about to begin in the defamation trial brought by magazine writer E. Jean Carroll. It seems that the president is pretty confident when he left Trump Tower. Take a look at this. He pumped his fist in the air, a sign of optimism, perhaps, that he is ready potentially to testify in this trial. The big question is, will he take the stand,
yes,
basically in his own defense in this trial? A previous jury, though, last May found that the former president is liable for sexually assaulting Miss Carroll in a department store dressing room back in 1996, that he did defame her, and despite his denials, he continues to deny all this. He did know her at the time. This jury, though, will only deal with the amount of damages dealing with this situation, not whether or not the facts of the case as they have been laid out and as he has been denying them. Judge Lewis Kaplan,
there's Eugene Carroll.
well, he holds he's a pretty tough federal judge. He will likely try and restrict Mr. Trump to the law under the rules of the law, because this is only dealing with damages. The former president will not be allowed basically to deny that there was the assault, because the jury has already found, the previous jury, as a matter of fact, that he did assault Miss Carroll. So.
And it was by a preponderance of the evidence. And they also found that Eugene Carroll was not credible as to the R. And they always leave that part out. The jury found that he was liable for the assault, but they didn't say that he was found not liable for the R. In other words, she was not credible for that. Her story, the jury did not believe. Some people might say that she's a liar, because she testified that he gave her the old hibbity-dibbity in addition to grabbing her by the purse. But the jury said, no, we don't believe you. And they just gave her the other one because they hate Trump, in my opinion. So that's the background. That's setting the scene. And that was on Fox News. Their cameras were rolling. But this person was in the courtroom himself, and he is reporting what happened inside. Matthew Russell Lee, he's over on X at Inner City Press, and we're jumping in to his trial excerpt. Here's what he tells us. Everybody is inside the courtroom. Door slams open. Judge Kaplan comes barging through. All rise. Oh, gosh, it's the judge, this guy again. All right, please be seated. We notice that the jurors in seats 2 and 3 are going to be socially distanced, is what the judge says. We had a little bit of a sickness in the house. And so jurors sit apart from each other. They move. Eugene Carroll's lawyer, Roberta Kaplan, says, Your Honor, can we put our witness on the stand before the jurors come in? Yes. Eugene Carroll's back on the stand. Or actually, no, it's this woman, Roberta Myers. So she's on the stand. Then they bring the jury in. Judge Kaplan says, good morning, jurors. I hope everyone is feeling fit today, since we had the last 2 days off. Miss Kaplan, call your next witness, please. Eugene Carroll's lawyer says, thank you, Your Honor. We call Roberta Myers. Who's Roberta? She's the former editor of Elle magazine, which is evidently where Eugene worked. Judge Kaplan says, the record will reflect that Mr. Trump is in the courtroom. Now, Trump sits down next to Alina Abba, wearing a blue tie today, looking sharp, Mr. President. Roberta says to Miss Myers, Roberta, oh gosh, we got 2 Robertas. Oh gosh. Okay, so Myers is on the stand. Roberta Kaplan says, have you ever testified before? Myers says, yeah, I did, in the first Carroll versus Trump trial. And then after that, did you go on TV? Myers says, yeah, I did. I went on MSNBC. Who did you vote for, Miss Myers, in 2016 and 2020? Democrats. Did Elle endorse political candidates? She says, no, that wasn't our role. We wrote profiles. Were you friendly with Miss Carroll, Miss Myers? Yeah, I was, but we were busy. No further questions. Well, Alina Abba stands up. Judge Kaplan says, cross. She says, yeah, I've got this one. I'll be brief. Miss Myers, you don't plan to vote for Donald Trump in 2024, do you? So I don't think I have to say what I plan to do to you. Well, Alina says, oh, that's fair enough. Okay. Were you terminated by Elle, Miss Myers? She says, well, they didn't renew my contract. Do you know that? Objection, says Carroll's lawyer. Kaplan says, sustained. Let's focus on the facts of this case, he says. I don't care about what happened with her contract. So you weren't at Elle, says Miss Abba, Mrs. When Miss Carroll departed, were you? No, I was not. So you have no knowledge, says Alina, from 2017 to 2019. You don't know anything about this? Nothing more than gossip. Alina's like, ooh, what was the gossip? Objection, sustained. What kind of writer was Miss Carroll? Myers says journalistic. What does that mean? Accurate. Miss Carroll gave relationship advice, didn't she? Says Alina. She wrote about the culture. And how would she respond to actual questions? Oh, she would call a psychiatrist or an MD or an expert. So that's being a fact-checking journalist? Objection, sustained. Alina says, okay, so what? I've ruled, says the judge. Move on. Alina says, okay, fine. No more questions. Kaplan says, you're excused, Miss Myers. Thank you. Witness gets off the bench and exits the courtroom. Judge Kaplan looks over to Roberta Kaplan, E. Jean's lawyer, says, any more plaintiffs, witnesses, any other people we're going to be hearing from today? She says, no, we just have a few exhibits. Let's play the video of Exhibit 164. Alina Abbott says no objection. So note that. Trump gets played. The video of Trump gets played. He says in the video, Trump says, this is a rigged deal. I had no idea who she was, nor could I care less. Kaplan says, hang on, when was that? And Alina says, Your Honor, we met and conferred about this, and we objected to this. And the judge says, well, this just came in without objection. Okay, so he says, Alina, you just said no objection. Now you're saying we met and conferred and objected? He says, this just came in without objection. She says, yeah, but he says, have a seat. They play the video. And so what happened here, I'm guessing, is that Alina met with Roberta. Like, this feels very underhanded here. I don't know what happened, but it feels very underhanded. So in other words, Alina and the defense from Trump met with Roberta and the lawyers for E. Jean. They agreed that video exhibit 164 would be, like, let's say 10 seconds and include this section. She plays it. It's 15 seconds and includes the full thing. They play it in front of the jury. Alina says, hey, when I agreed to that, when I said no objection, judge, like, she's going to try to explain this. It was for the 15th. It was for the 10-second version, but they played the 15-second version, and they didn't tell me that they were going to be doing that. We already met about this. And he says, shut up, sit down, pipe down, have a seat. You already let it in. So that feels underhanded to me. I don't know what happened, if Roberta, swapped the exhibit around, or, if there was confusion about the exhibit or what it was, but that's what I think happened. So shut up. Carroll's lawyer says, okay, next exhibit. They're playing these in front of the jury. Now Trump's other lawyer, Beto, also with Alina's firm, says, we objected to this one, Your Honor. Can we have a sidebar, please? They walk up. The husher goes on, whisper. Psh. Now they're back. And they play the video. So now this is Trump's April 2023 deposition. There's a blue background. Trump's saying, my most valuable assets here is the brand. Says, I became president because of the brand. I think it's the hottest brand in the world. I did an NFT and it's sold out, he says. This is the depo. Jury's watching this. And the cards, he says, remember the Trump cards everybody kind of made fun of? Their value is up. I'm happy. Trump people, I did it. It sold out immediately. Some of the cards are selling for 20 grand. One, I think, is going for 82 grand. I heard numbers like that. Someone hit the jackpot. Trump continues. Says, I believe the brand is worth even more than the buildings. It's like Coke. Then there's the New York Attorney General lawyer. Says, what's the price of Mar-a-Lago to Trump in the depo? This is a video. He says, 1.5 billion. Tishy's lawyer says, well, here's your letter to Deutsche Bank. Trump looks at it. He's staring at it on the video. Okay, okay, thanks. Jury's watching. Tishy's lawyer. Now, so they went over to New York. They're still in New York, right? This is a New York trial. You showed it to Deutsche Bank. Commercial real estate? He says, no, showed it to another division of the same bank. They're very separate. So Carroll's lawyer says, perfect. We got that one in. We also offer plaintiff's exhibit 167 and 167T. Another deposition video. Question to Trump. When did you move into Trump Tower? This is a year after it was built. When were you married to your first wife, Ivana? 1978 to the early 90s. When you were president, Mr. Trump, did you ever speak directly to reporters? Yes, too many to name. Did you read the cut excerpt? I don't believe I did. And the book, What Do We Need Men For? Have you ever read it? No, never seen it. Did you say this? There is zero evidence, quote, it's fake news, no sales attendants around. All should condemn false accusation. If info is Democrats are working with Miss Carroll, let us know. Did you say this, Mr. President, Mr. Trump? Yes, I stand behind it. And did you say, I'll say it with great respect, did you say this? She's not my type. Trump says yes. And you said you never met her? Yes. Later, they showed me a photo from a receiving line at a charity. I shake a lot of hands. Her husband, John Johnson, was there. Jury was still watching. They say, who's in this photo? He says, it's Marla. And they show this photo. And he's saying, you're saying that's Marla? He says, it's E. Jean Carroll. Because the question is, no, that's not Marla. So Trump picked the wrong woman, they said. And I've seen the photo. We'll see if he has it here. But it's kind of hard to tell, right? It's a blurry black and white photo. Everybody kind of looks the same. You know, it's like where all the women had their hair like identical. So it's kind of interchangeable almost. And they say it's E. Jean Carroll. Trump says it's John Johnson. It's very, very blurry. So what did you mean? You know, she's not my type, like physically? He says, yes. And now that I know more, not my type in any way. Not physically, not emotionally. I don't like her sense of humor. She's weird. She lives in the forest with mice in her kitchen and thinks rape is sexy. Okay. I take it the 3 women you married are your type. Yes. Now, what is Truth Social, says Trump? It's a platform opened by me, an alternative to Twitter. And you issued a statement on Truth, right? Yes, I did. Trump says she's sick. She made it up, contradicted by what she said on CNN. Jury's watching the video. He says, I'll be suing her when this case is over, and I'll be suing you too. Are you done? Did you write all this yourself? Yes. You wrote, I have no idea who she is. Yes, I think she's a whack job. Now, Trump, you said the word hoax 250 times in 2020. He said, oh, probably. There are a lot of hoaxes played on me. Russia, 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 Ukraine, Mueller, lying to the FISA court, all hoaxes, lying to Congress, hoax by the scum that we have in this country. And she's a liar and she's sick. In addition to Mueller, question, Russia, 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 did you also call mail-in ballots a hoax? He says, yeah, they are very dishonest. But you vote by mail. Yes, but after it in, I don't know what's next. After I throw it in the mail, I don't know what's next. Your Honor, I believe we're done with our evidence. But give us a break first. Demands Carroll's lawyer. But give us the break first. Okay, 10 minutes. Jury leaves. Jury's out. They have their break. Carroll's lawyer says, Your Honor, they intend to call Mr. Trump and then they're going to call Miss Martin. Judge Kaplan says, aren't there motions after they close? Alina says, yeah. Okay. All rise. Judge waddles out of there for the 10-minute break. And we're back. Judge Kaplan's back. Says, Miss Carroll's lawyers, is the plaintiff going to rest? Roberta says, yes, Your Honor. Plaintiff rests. So what Judge Kaplan asks for here is a motion. And remember, we've talked about this in other trials we've covered, but when the presenting side, in this case it's the plaintiff, or in a criminal case it's the prosecutors, when they bring their case, they present their case, at the conclusion of all of their evidence, there's a mechanism, different rules in different states, but there's a mechanism by which you say, even if we say that everything that they presented was true, even if everything was true, like we don't have to present one shred of evidence, you still, under the law, can't find my client guilty or liable in this case because it's civil. And there's a mechanism for that. And it works, called the directed verdict, or you may hear this, use different phrases, but that's the mechanism, right? And so Alina, the judge was waiting. Okay, so they just rested. Alina, is there a motion? Normal question. Yes. She says, under Rule 50A, the letter, Judge Kaplan cuts her off. Alina says, yes, Your Honor, we have a motion. Under Rule 50A, he says, hey, Rule 58 doesn't have anything to do with this, Alina. She says, I said 50A as an apple. not 58, Your Honor. Like, this judge is just spring-loaded. Rule 58 doesn't have anything to do with this. I didn't say that. If you'd relax for 2 seconds. I said 58. She says, this backlash against E. Jean Carroll, it occurred before President Trump even had an opportunity to speak. And so in other words, if E. Jean was already getting abused before Trump even spoke, she says a jury cannot find that he caused this. Trump didn't cause the harm. The cut caused the harm. The magazine caused the harm. She cites this case, Samuels versus Air Transport. We are entitled to judgment as a matter of law. Oh, the judge says, well, you're saying there's no causation then. She says, yes, that's what I'm saying, but I'd like to finish and make a record. He said, you've already made a record. But if you're going to be brief, I'll hear it. Alina says, thanks, Judge. Gosh, thanks for letting me do my job. Says, Your Honor, Miss Carroll has made lewd posts about wieners and footlongs and Nathan's hot dogs, and people found those tweets and responded to those. She made those posts. People responded to her. She says she also intentionally deleted evidence. Well, when did that deletion occur, Alina, says the judge? The day the cut came out. The day the article came out. Kaplan says, well, wasn't there no anticipation of litigation until she spoke with George Conway? So she deleted stuff before there was even litigation underway. Well, after she talked to George Conway, she continued to delete, Your Honor. Did you get a subpoena in this case for that record? It's discovery rules, Your Honor. We need it from discovery. We don't need a subpoena. We can point to her testimony in court where she said that. Well, you've already pointed to that, says the judge. But where is there a subpoena in the record? Well, we can submit it if you want us to. Not later, now. Says these are emails that included death threats, didn't they? Well, that's what she says. We don't know. They were deleted. So you're saying she should be punished because she deleted tweets that would be helpful to her. Alina says, that's not what I'm saying. Kaplan says, you're repeating yourself. She says, well, clearly I'm not being heard, Judge. Their expert wasn't even aware that President Trump's statement was 5 hours after the cut came out. She said, I'm not aware because she didn't even consider the timing. So she, even their expert, can't establish causation. So this case should not go to this jury. Roberta Kaplan says, judge looks at her and says, well, what's your response to this? Roberta says, I'm going to be brief here, Your Honor. There's ample evidence of causation. Mr. Trump did speak before the tweet. There was a denial in the cut. Okay, so in other words, the magazine posted the piece that Trump attacked this woman. And when they reached out to the White House for comment, he denied it. So that's the causation. So when the article went public, Trump's denial is what caused people to criticize E. Jean Carroll and threaten her. And then that's what led to this whole thing. So apparently, like, you can't even deny anything now because then they'll just sue you and bring you to court for it. So Roberta says, the tweets overlap with what Mr. Trump said on June 21st and on June 22nd. And so judge says, oh, perfect. So there could be multiple causations then. Maybe the magazine, maybe Trump's denial, maybe Trump's response, maybe other, who knows. But Roberta says, but the response here was foreseeable. So Trump should have known because Trump said people should pay dearly for these types of lies. So he knew what was going to come when he denied. And so the judge says, excellent point there, Roberta. Alina, your motion is denied. And these motions are almost always denied, right? Because you're in the middle of a trial. So that's not unusual, but the judge is unusual in how he handles all of this. He's basically arguing against Alina and in favor of Roberta. So he says, your motion's denied, Alina. Who's your first witness here today? She says, okay, that sounds about right. All right, Your Honor, the defense calls Carol Martin and says, when we call her, by the way, they have opened the door. Roberta has opened the door for me to ask my client what he meant in the deposition because they opened the door. And the judge says, Roberta? Says, Judge, Your Honor already ruled what Donald Trump can say, so he can't talk about that. Says, Your Honor has ruled that Trump cannot contradict the prior jury's findings. And we think it's appropriate for Ms. Abba to proffer what her client can testify to. Judge says, I'm planning on dealing with this, but what about Carroll Martin? And Roberta says, well, they want to put in new exhibits, including a text message, and we object. Well, who's going to address this for Mr. Trump? Is it you, Alina, or who? Beto from Alina's firm says, I will. Says, by the way, Exhibit 101 is already in evidence. The other is a text. Kaplan says, I'm only asking for a number. Don't read it to me. Now, says Beto, you've had these documents a long time, haven't you? He says, yeah. Well, we intend to use it to impeach her. To impeach your own witness? She's an adverse party, so yeah. Alina says they've opened the door to this, Your Honor, on the Reid Hoffman issue as well. They asked about George Soros and the DNC, and so the door is open. He says the door is closed. Don't ask about Reid Hoffman. Let's bring in the jury. Jury enters. Everyone stands up. Nice to see you, jury. Great. Thank you for being here. We care about you so much. Thanks for doing your civic duty. Sit back down. Deputy Andy, shout out to our court deputies, says, what is your name? She swears in, Francis Carroll Martin. You promise to tell the truth, nothing but God? I do. Alina says, how long have you known Miss Carroll? Miss Martin? Oh my gosh, all these names. Carroll Martin, Francis Carroll Martin. We're going to call her Martin. We're going to call Eugene. How long have you known Eugene? Martin says 30 years. Wow, it's a long time. Do you have a lawyer, Miss Martin? I do. And did we try to interview you before this case? You did. Alina says, I'd like her declared a hostile witness, Your Honor. Did you last meet with plaintiff's counsel in the last month? Twice. And did you speak with us? No. And you're here under a subpoena from us? Yes. And you went to Miss Kaplan's firm, didn't you? Yes. And did they show you documents? No, I testified twice before. And when you testified both times for Miss Carroll, right? Yes. Do you use Twitter or social media? No, I prefer to live a private life. Otherwise, it'd be public? Seems so. Now, you reviewed a portion of Miss Carroll's book, didn't you? A portion. And you reviewed the cut? The cut? Meaning what? The New York Magazine. Oh, yes. Did you read the whole book? Over time, I did. And when did you finish her book? It's hard to say. Were you concerned for Eugene's safety? On some levels. And for my daughter. And did you tell Miss Carroll about that? Yeah. Yes, I did. How? Judge Kaplan jumps in. He says, is this a hypothetical question? She says, no. I'm asking about text or in person. That was my question. He says, no, it wasn't. Did you put anything in an email about your safety? Says Alina. He's like, if this judge is just going to keep doing this, like this is normal conversation. And the judge is interrupting her to make her direct exam off. Okay, fine, judge. He wants her to say email. Did you put anything in an email about your safety? Yes. Did you feel better? Well, it ebbed and flowed. The climate in the country was changing rapidly, says Miss Martin. And after the cut article, were you concerned for your safety? My daughter was. And Miss Carroll told you, Eugene, that she had zero security concerns. She did. I don't know if she said zero. Well, what is this? Shows her this thing. Oh, this is text from Miss Carroll. Your Honor, we move Defense Exhibit 101. We'd like to use this to impeach her. Objection. There's nothing to impeach her about. Alina says, Your Honor, I have a right to ask her what it says. Kaplan says, okay, it's in evidence. Alina says, Miss Carroll, Eugene invited you, Martin, to a social event about her case, didn't she? Yes. Which events did she invite you to? I don't know. Was I arguing at them? You? No. After the New York Times podcast, there was interest in this story. There was a Harvey Weinstein sidebar. It was not just Eugene, but others as well. Do you think that Miss Carroll Eugene was enjoying the attention? She says, yeah, at points. Miss Martin, Miss Martin says, what does narcissism mean to you? Seeing things through yourself. And you're under oath, right? You said that Miss Carroll's narcissism has run amok. Is that what you said? I texted that to a friend. So I understand it's hard to say that about a friend. Judge cuts her off. No speeches, Miss Abba. Okay, Miss Martin, you've said that Miss Carroll is also a drug addict, and the drug is herself, right? I don't remember if I said that. Do you see this document? She says, yeah, I see it. That was written to my daughter. So even her friend, which is like, this woman, by the way, is a key witness in the first trial. She said that she got a phone call from E. Jean after it happened, and E. Jean told her that it happened, right? A contemporaneous report back then, 25 years ago. And then there's all this other stuff. Oh, Miss Carroll's a drug addict? Oh, that's what you said? Oh, Miss Carroll is a narcissist who just makes everything about herself? Judge cuts her off. Some to the sidebar and bring a copy of this in writing, please. They put the whisper on. Psh. And they're back. Alina says, did you understand Miss Carroll was hoping to lose this so she could go to the Supreme Court? Objection, sustained. Alina says, we're going through this ad nauseum. Can you look at, he says, why don't you ask a proper question? She says, okay, so she could sell more books, right? Miss Carroll wanted to sell more books. Martin says, well, she wanted to sell her book. Do you believe that publicity has become a part of E. Jean's lifestyle? It's an extension of the lifestyle she already had. Yes or no? I'm hard pressed to say. Did E. Jean celebrate this case? It was organized by journalists to celebrate it. Well, what journalists? There were more than one. Who do they write for? New York Times? From the New York Times? I don't know. Anyone from Fox News? Not that I know of. How many parties about these lawsuits how many parties about these lawsuits against Mr. Trump? 6. These people have Trump prosecution parties because they're sick. How many parties about these lawsuits? 6 I went to. It's crazy. Which one with journalists? I don't remember. Did these journalists write articles about her case? Objection, sustained. So they're like little coming out parties, right? E. Jean's going to show up and all these other anti-Trumpers are going to write puff pieces about her. It's like, gosh, what a bunch of freaks. Alina says, were you frustrated by these parties about the lawsuit? Somewhat. We are different. Well, what about the dinner? Were there lawyers there? Robbie was there, Roberta Kaplan. And George Conway, was he there? No. You stated that Miss Carroll was acting a little scary. Didn't you say that? Yeah, that was a bad choice of words. But you said it, right? So that's a yes? Yeah. You said she was loving the adulation, didn't you? Did you share with others private messages that Miss Carroll sent you? Like this exhibit here? I offer it as evidence. I object. Alina says it's for impeachment. So let me have a legible copy, says the judge. Judge looks at it and says, sustained. He keeps that out. But you have shared Miss Carroll's private messages. I really don't remember. Do you see that you sent this to sustained? It says you're reading a document that's not in evidence, Alina. Do you believe, Miss Martin, that Miss Carroll is enjoying this fame? I think she's adapting. Enjoying is a multifaceted word. Alina says no further questions. Any cross-exam? Roberta's up. Says, you know Miss Carroll has been harmed because you're friends. Objection. She's Miss Abba's witness. Objection. Judge says overruled. Were you named in the book, Miss Martin? Said it was dedicated to me and Miss Birnbach. In the book, I was identified as a news reporter. And did you? Objection. Your Honor, we discussed all this before. Happy to discuss a sidebar. And they're back. Miss Martin, were you concerned about your safety? Once I spoke with the New York Times podcast, I was. Were you concerned because you'd been involved with Miss Carroll's lawsuit against Trump? Objection. Overruled. She says, the U.S. climate felt different to me, dangerous to me. What do you mean about lifestyle? Well, that the lawsuit had become a large part of her life. So you were concerned that it wouldn't work out for her? Objection. Overruled. You discussed, Miss Martin, the passage of the New York law that allowed her to sue Trump. Objection. I never asked about that. Kaplan says, well, you alluded to it, so it's overruled. She did. You didn't want her to file a second lawsuit? You said you didn't want her to file a second lawsuit? Martin says, he was saying he hadn't lost the 2020 election. Objection. Overruled. Were you concerned? concerned that the defamation would just continue and escalate. Carroll's lawyer says, well, what did you mean drug addict? No idea. I use words too loosely sometimes. And since Miss Carroll had been a journalist her whole life, this is rehabilitating her. It's like a cross-exam, but he's really rehabilitating her. It's not surprising that there were journalists at her parties, right? Right. Yeah, that's why they have parties. They're all just friends. Do you think Miss Carroll is a narcissist? I have no idea. Do you distrust her motives? No. What was her job when you got her? When you met her? A columnist. Then in 1994, we did TV shows for America Talks. Do you think Miss Carroll wants to be known as the woman who lied about the president assaulting her? Objection, overruled. No. No further questions. Kaplan says, okay, we're going to take our break now. Lawyers be back at 10 of 2. Jurors, you have a bit longer. I got some business to do with him. Now we're back. Kaplan says, so they're done. And we got Alina is now calling more witnesses. The break is over. Judge Kaplan says, Miss Abba, do you have any other witnesses here today? She says, yes, I do. President Trump. He says, great. Judge says, I have a few things to say. There was a trial last year about the truth or falsity of Miss Carroll's claims. Mr. Trump was listed as a witness, but did not testify. And the jury found for Miss Carroll, there are no do-overs. It's called issue preclusion or collateral estoppel. Meaning we take that ruling and just bring it over here. The jury found that Mr. Trump, he says, inserted his fingers into her purse, which we say was, we're not sure about that. We're going to get back to that. And that because that's not what the verdict form said. It just said assault. Insertion, we don't know about that. Could be outside doing the DJ diddles. And that Miss Carroll did not make up her claim. But the judge should say that the jury did find that she did make up the R claim. You know how they always leave that out. And now that Mr. Trump's statements were defamatory, now Mr. Trump may not make any arguments against this. Now, it's totally dishonest, in my opinion, to say that Miss Carroll did not make up her claim. The jury found that she did make up the R claim. Clearly, they said no. So she's not entirely honest, according to the old jury, but they leave that part out. So she's not credible in their eyes. So now Mr. Trump cannot make up any arguments about this. Now, Miss Carroll adhered to the court's rulings, and Miss Kaplan, on behalf of Miss Carroll, questioned if Mr. Trump could offer any admissible testimony. Now, Miss Abba, you said he could testify about the reporter's questions and if he was acting with ill will. And so he says a judge must seek to exclude inadmissible evidence, and those concerns exist here, including in Miss Kaplan's letter. And I want to confirm a few things. Miss Abba, what is Trump going to be testifying to? She says, Your Honor, I have not much to ask. I only have 3 questions for my clients. That's it. He says, I don't care. We're going to do it my way. He's going to stand by his deposition. He's going to respond to the accusation, and he's going to deny them. That's it, 100%. I'm not testifying for my client. Judge says, let me hear from the other side. Roberta, what do you say? She says, well, just now, Mr. Trump said under his breath, sitting over there at the table, he's going to say he never did it. So he will not testify about questions asked of him by reporters. Alina says, no, if I may, Your Honor. He says, no. What are your questions? She said that he stands behind his deposition. I'll ask about the state of his mind. He'll say he was defending himself, and that's it. Yes, and that he never intended to hurt Miss Carroll. Well, he had an opportunity, Roberta says, to already participate in trial, and the judge says, yeah, and he lost, and I will so instruct the jury more than once. Trump says, I wasn't at the trial. I never met this woman. He says that from the back, from the bench. Kaplan says, Mr. Trump, keep your voice down. Will your client abide, Miss Abba, Mrs.? Absent having a glass ball, she says. Trump is saying something. And judge cuts him off. Mr. Trump, that is not allowed. I will permit him to get on the stand. You ask if he stands by it, and that's it. So I only get one question? You can ask the second question. The question about why did you make the statements? No. Okay. So I have a right to ask about intent, I think. I will decide what he has a right to do here. That's my job, not yours. Well, I can ask it that way. It will not be an open-ended question, Miss Abba. If you ask it, there is likely to be an objection, and I am likely to sustain it. And that's okay. Well, what about the second question? Can I ask that? He says it keeps changing. What is your second question? As long as we have the deposition in, I think it'll be fine. He said, well, I hope you will. Bring in the jury. Jury comes in. We stand up again. He says, all right, ladies and gentlemen, I hope lunch was better than the cafeteria usually is. Miss Abba, it's Mrs., I think, unfortunately. You may call your witness. Alina Abba stands and says, the defense calls President Donald Trump. Judge Kaplan, who's a bitter man, says, Donald John Trump. Don't call him president in my courtroom. All right, so he's so petty, he corrects him. Donald John Trump. Or maybe that's Trump saying Donald John Trump. I think that was actually the judge. So he comes up to the stand. State your name. What's your name? Donald John Trump. Promise to tell the truth. God? I do. And I'll see if I can find that other exchange. Now, you viewed your deposition, says Miss Abba. Trump is now on the stand. He's sworn in. Mr. President, you viewed your deposition, didn't you? I stand by it 100%. Yes. He says she said something I considered a false accusation. Roberta jumps up. Objection. Kaplan sustained. Alina Abba's done. I have no further questions. That's it. Cross. Roberta jumps up. Mr. Trump, there was a trial here, correct? Yeah. And Mr. Trump, is this the first trial between you and Miss Carroll you've attended? Yes. No further questions. Alina comes up, says, Mr. President, did you have counsel at the previous trial and follow their advice? Yes. Objection. Sustained. Alina, no further questions. That's it. That's Trump's testimony. One and done. One question. That's it. Now, obviously, the reason for that, the judge wasn't going to let him talk about anything. So what could he really say? Kaplan excused the jurors. Jurors, you may go until tomorrow morning. We're going to have closing arguments tomorrow. We'll see you back here for that. Says counsel can pick up the draft jury charge at 2:30. We got to run the copier. We'll see you back here at 3:30 when we go through the jury instructions. And we're back. The jurors are now gone. It's now Trump's lawyer, Roberta's lawyer, Eugene's lawyer, and the judge. Trump's defense says, Your Honor, and they're looking at the jury instructions, right? They're trying to, what is the jury going to look at when they're making their decisions? Your Honor, we seek to limit this instruction, says Trump's defense. Kaplan says, but you previously argued under New York law that Mr. Trump could have been found to have committed assault if he touched her breast. Well, that was previous counsel, not us. That's Trump's counsel, his argument. It was found in the previous case that there was digital penetration. Under penal law, there's some laughter in the courtroom, get it? Now, how do you propose we describe it, the digital penetration? He says, there's no need for the jury to hear any of this. He says, Mr. Medeo, I'm giving you one more chance. He says, okay, well, what the jury found was abuse, not digital penetration. He says, you're repeating yourself. He says, you know our objections. He says, yeah, I do. Your objections are overruled. Says the jury is clearly entitled to award punitive damages to deter Trump from continuing to defame her, or anyone else for that matter. And so I think we're done, counsel. I appreciate the cooperation on both sides. Thanks for being here. See you tomorrow for closing arguments and maybe even a verdict. And so, big, ultra, mega shout outs to Inner City Press. You see him here, Matthew Russell Lee, reporting from inside the Southern District of New York. He's got a lot of great reporting. He's got books on Amazon. He's got an awesome X account, and he is there, boots on the ground, reporting so that we all can see what is happening inside. And so make sure you're following him, supporting his work, because we're going to be back for closing arguments, and we're going to see how the jury rules on this thing, of course, Probably not going to be favorable to Trump. There will be more appeals, and we'll see where it goes. But my friends, we're here. We're covering the Trump saga, all of it. And I would love it if you subscribed wherever it is you're watching it so that we never lose sight of you. You can always come back and join us on the next one. We also have got our website, robertgovea.com, link down in the description below. We have our newsletter there as well. Sign up for that. That way, all of our stories will get delivered right to your inbox, and you'll never miss a thing. We'll be looking forward to seeing you back here on the next one. All right, my friends. Now, that is what's going on in the Trump case. We've got Texas, and then we're going to jump into Georgia with Fani and talk about Nathan's hot dog, I guess, and see what that involves. But let's see what's going on in the great state of Texas. Texas declares an invasion and rejects the Biden administration and their failed border policies. Now, Greg Abbott sent a letter notifying them that they're not going to be bending over backwards while they just ransack the border. We're going to take a look at what the governor said, and he's going to explain it as well. We've got Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick, who's supporting Greg Abbott, and Texas continues to install razor wire. The White House is reacting to their border failures. And look at this, over 20 states have now joined in on this. Trump reacted, DeSantis is coming in, Louisiana's jumping on board, and a bunch of other states. And so this is a very interesting development. Let's start with Greg Abbott and see what his perspective is. The border continues to fail. Tens of thousands of people coming over basically every day. Greg Abbott has said enough already. From the great state of Texas, Governor Greg Abbott on January 24th writes, "The federal government has broken the compact between the United States and the states. The executive branch of these United States has a constitutional duty to enforce federal laws that protect the states, including the immigration laws that are already on the books right now," saying President Biden has refused to enforce those laws and has even violated them. The result is that he has smashed records for illegal immigration. Now, despite having been put on notice in a series of letters, one of which I delivered to him by hand, President Biden has ignored Texas's demand that he perform his constitutional duties, saying Biden violated his oath to faithfully execute immigration laws that were already passed by Congress. Instead of prosecuting immigrants for crimes, he has sent his lawyers into federal courts to literally sue Texas for securing their own border. Biden has also instructed his agencies to ignore federal statutes that mandate the detention of illegal immigrants. The effect is to illegally allow en masse their parole into the United States. And Biden is also wasting taxpayer dollars to literally tear open Texas's infrastructure. Biden has enticed illegal immigrants away from the 28 legal ports of entry to a bridge, at a bridge where nobody drowns, into the dangerous waters of the Rio Grande. Saying under Biden's lawless border policies, more than 6 million illegal immigrants have crossed into our southern border in just 3 years alone. This is more than the population of 33 states in this country. This illegal refusal to protect the states has inflicted unprecedented harm on all of us. Now, Abbott says, James Madison, Alexander Hamilton, and other visionaries who wrote the Constitution foresaw that states should not be left to the mercy of a lawless president who does nothing to stop external threats like cartels smuggling millions of illegal immigrants across the border. And as we heard from the Kerry Lake tape, are operating in 50 states. That is why the framers included both Article 4, Section 4, which promises that the federal government shall protect each state against invasion, and Article 1, Section 10, Clause 3, which acknowledges that, quote, the state's sovereign interests in protecting their borders. That's from another case called Arizona versus United States. Saying the failure of the Biden administration to fulfill his duties that are imposed by the Constitution has triggered another portion of the Constitution. So, in other words, the feds shall protect each state. If this is not successful, then this now comes into play. The states have a sovereign interest in protecting their borders. So because Joe has failed, the right to the states that have been reserved for their self-defense is now activated. So Greg Abbott from Texas says, for these reasons, I have already declared an invasion under the Constitution to invoke Texas's constitutional authority to defend and to protect itself. That authority is the supreme law of the land. Constitution is the supreme, and it supersedes any other federal statutes, which is Congress, right? Congress just passes a law. To the contrary, Constitution reigns supreme over the congressional statutes. The Texas National Guard, the Texas Department of Public Safety, and Texas personnel are acting on that authority, as well as state law, to secure our border. Amazing. So, this is a constitutional framework that I think has merit to it. The states, right? We are called the United States. We are an assembly of states. We have state rights. And when the feds, right? Otherwise, the states would not have joined the Union. Why would we call ourselves the United States? Why don't we just call ourselves America? We are separate states. And that's a part of the structure to prevent against tyranny. When the federal government becomes too big, bloated, and corrupt, just like they were in England, we say that's a problem. So we want all of these various states to be able to govern themselves to preserve liberty when the people in Washington will not. And so a beautiful letter, very incredible to see this in writing and to see action being taken on this. As somebody who's lived in Arizona my whole life and dealt with illegal immigration since I'm a boy, this is what Greg Abbott said when he was explaining this. He posted this on his X account. He says, the Biden administration has abdicated its responsibility to enforce the immigration laws on the books. And now Texas has a constitutional right to defend and protect himself, saying we will continue to hold the line.
Just very simple. And that is because the Biden administration has really, truly abdicated its responsibility to secure the border and enforce the laws. Texas, very simply, is securing the border. And so we put up the razor wire that you were talking about, Bill, and we put up all these barricades that actually have denied illegal entry. And as you pointed out also in that screen, that there are criminals coming across our border. Texas has a right as a state to stop criminals from coming into our state, to make arrests of those criminals. And we have National Guard as well as Texas Department of Public Safety officers who are there to make those arrests and to deny illegal entry. And Joe Biden actually does have an option here. Joe Biden's option is to enforce the laws of the United States and stop this illegal entry.
All they've got to do, and it's a little bit too complicated for them. I think they want the border to be ransacked, probably because they're going to do some sort of mass amnesty push any day now. But Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick is also supporting Greg Abbott. You can see he was on with Glenn Beck, and they had this great exchange. Glenn Beck's asking him, basically, are you guys going to, dig in on this? Or are you just going to buckle, or where's this going?
With the federal government on this?
Yeah, on the border, absolutely. In fact, I co-wrote with the governor Senate Bill 4, which we passed at the end of last year in the umpteenth special session that we had. And it says that our law enforcement can now act as, in essence, Border Patrol. We can arrest, we can detain, we can put in jail people who come here illegally. And the bill says that if we see you cross, or if we happen to find out you cross, because maybe it's a traffic stop, well, where are you from? Well, I just came across the border, whatever is said, that we run a background check, fingerprints, and do a photo. And then we take them to a magistrate and we say, you can either go to jail or you can go home. And if you go home and you come back, you're going to jail for a long time.
Now, that would be great. SCOTUS doesn't have anything to say about that?
Well, we just passed in December. They're already suing us, and that will be up next. And I'm so disappointed this week because Arizona tried it in 2012. The bill is not as good as ours, and the court wasn't as conservative. So I think we have a real chance to win this. But what I saw from Amy Coney Barrett,
Do you have any idea?
I have no idea, because they didn't give a reason. How could she be separated from Alito and Gorsuch and Thomas and John Roberts, I get.
Yeah.
I mean, he is.
Yeah, I know.
He's. I mean, we don't have any confidence in him.
No.
Now, this was a temporary review of it. It will.
And it didn't stop Texas from doing anything.
Right.
It said the federal government can go
Yes.
and do this.
So we
But
still have our wire there.
Yeah.
If they cut their wire, guess what?
You put new wire down.
We patch it up.
There you go, baby. So just patch it up. That's over from the Blaze, and a great interview there. Yeah, cut it, man. Cut it if you want to. We got a lot more of it. We'll just connect it back together again. We'll see you on the border, feds. All right, so that is Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick, and more razor wires being installed. This is what Fox News was reporting. They had somebody down there today, and here's what that sounded like.
Good luck fixing it. The two parties remain far apart, and then lo and behold, a bizarre incident in Eagle Pass, Texas, that sort of brought all of this to light. Dana Marie McNichol, with more from there. Dana Marie.
Neil, Texas is not backing down, reinforcing areas with even more razor wire in areas that migrants have frequently climbed over, just like we saw this morning. Fox News drone captured 30 migrants climbing onto a shipping container, using some of that clothing to protect themselves from the razor wire. Texas DPS waited on the other side to arrest the group for criminal trespassing. Today, Texas Governor Greg Abbott released a statement on the Lone Star State's right to defend itself, saying in part, President Biden has enticed illegal immigrants. Now, the recent Supreme Court decision gave legal authority to Border Patrol to cut the razor wire. Nothing here has been cut. The Texas National Guard told me Border Patrol has not tried to access Shelby Park, where hundreds of yards of razor wire line the Rio Grande. The river, it's fast, it's dangerous right now after officials released water from a dam upstream. Fox cameras captured a male trying to cross the strong current, swept him downstream, but ultimately he managed to come ashore. The Texas National Guard did pick him up, and Texas DPS says the Rio Grande averages a drowning every single day.
Texas is doing
Fixing the mess at the border.
Texas is doing every measure, putting every measure in place to prevent that, to try to discourage that. But yet at the federal level, the federal government has not done anything as far as trying to discourage illegal immigration, especially those that want to cross a dangerous river.
And this area in Shelby Park is secure, but hundreds of people are crossing a day illegally into the United States where there aren't any barriers.
No barriers. And that was a nice timing for that hovercraft back there. As soon as she's in the middle of her segment, I'm sure she was really thrilled about that. But interesting exchange, okay? You see, they're still coming in. Texas is just arresting them. Okay, thanks for coming in. You're going to jail or go home. You pick one, but you're not coming into the country. Turn around. And it doesn't take a lot of that, okay? Once people say, oh, we can't go in this way, they're going to go somewhere else. It's closed. That's the point. The theory is maybe they'll go back home and not into the country that can't support them. And if you think about this, right, the biggest cities in the country are failing because of immigration. What does that say for everything else? If New York fails, if Chicago fails, what do they think these small towns in Texas can do? It's insane. And so now Texas is acting appropriately and responding here. And I don't know about you, man, but I was thinking about getting a cowboy hat. We might start saying y'all here. You know, I might say howdy, 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 my friends. Welcome to the show. Hope y'all are doing great. Might be moving to Texas soon. So the White House is very nonplussed about anything that's happening on the border. John Kirby was asked about this, and this was yesterday before Greg Abbott actually released his statement saying they can all get bent. But this was right after the Supreme Court came out and said, yeah, go cut the wires. We don't care, whatever. And Martha McCallum just laced into him over this. And here's some of that exchange. Do we have a border here, John? Are you guys even paying attention to this at all?
Money go to turn people away and to stop the influx.
Oh my goodness! I don't think I'm qualified to speak for the American people and what they would, what they specifically want to see about immigration changes. What I would like to tell them is that President Biden has, since the very beginning, since day one, been concerned about our immigration policy and calling for reform. He does agree that there needs to be changes in the way we process, and we have created additional legal pathways, but there's obviously more that can be done, not only to create legal pathways, but to enforce the laws that are in place changes and whatever new laws come of this so that we can crack down on illegal immigration. I think he shares those concerns about the need for serious reform. He also believes that part and parcel of this effort has got to be extra border security, and that's why a significant part of his supplemental request did include specific funding for border security to include additional Border Patrol agents.
But the White House, we saw how the Supreme Court decided on this decision. But what's happening now as a result of that is that the razor wire that was put to prevent people from crossing is being removed at this point. So I think it's a legitimate question to ask. The president could take executive action on the border. He could, end catch and release so that we wouldn't have thousands of people coming into the country, 800 gotaways a day. So it doesn't seem like there's a lot of fire in his belly, John, to stop people from entering. It seems that he's okay with the opposite.
No, Martha, I kind of would disagree with you. I don't think he's lacking any sense of urgency about the need for border security at all. And he has taken some executive actions, such as putting, U.S. troops down there to help take off some of the Border Patrol, some of their tasks and some of their responsibilities, so that they can focus on immigration work itself. And this issue over the wire was actually one of the reasons we opposed it, was so that it could allow the Border Patrol to get access to the river itself, so that they could do their jobs. And
I wish somebody would just say, what is that job? What do they need access to do to bring people into the country? Like, that's the whole point of the access. He keeps getting away with that line.
There's no lack of sense of urgency here on the importance of working on the border. But look, executive action can only go so far. I mean, and certainly he's not afraid to use that. I won't get ahead of any decisions he might make.
That's what I'm saying. You say there's no lack of urgency. He's been president for 3 years.
Shout out.
This is not just the same old immigration issue we've had going on for a decade, as he said the other day. These are record numbers all the time. Yeah. And people in Iowa and New Hampshire are the ones who are expressing concerns about it. This isn't Arizona and Texas. This is Iowa and New Hampshire.
We're all border states now, my friends. Welcome to the party.
I don't think that people sense that there is an urgency to address this. In fact, I talked to lots of voters over the past few weeks who said they think the opposite is happening. They're trying to figure out why the president wouldn't do what he can to stop it.
Well, that's why I'm glad I'm here with you, so I can try to explain some of that.
Please.
I mean, he has taken some executive actions, but there's a limit to what executive action can do, and we really need support from Congress. We really need additional legislative action here, new laws, and quite frankly, on day one, he put forward a new immigration reform proposed legislation that hasn't been acted on. So we got to act in partnership with Congress. And I'll tell you that the discussions that we're having on the Senate side, they're progressing well. I won't get ahead of it, but they're moving along well, and we're negotiating in good faith.
I mean, they're not. I mean, they're not, is what we're hearing, that they're not really moving along well. And, you say that he's been concerned about it for 3 years, but that's failing, obviously. Because when you have record numbers of people coming in, that means the policy's failing. So why not change gears
and try to do something that works?
I think it's important to put this in context too, Martha. You're seeing, as you rightly said, record numbers of people, and it's not just the United States that are facing that pressure. Lots of countries in the hemisphere, including Mexico, is facing a lot of pressure at their own southern border.
Okay, so everyone else is failing and totally incompetent, so it's okay that we're failing and also totally incompetent because everyone else is. So shout out to Martha for blasting him on that. That segment goes on a little bit longer, but we can't hear him continually gaslight and lie through his teeth to us. It just fries our brains. But that's what they're doing, right? There's really no action there. I think because the action is to bring in people, Joe Biden through some mechanism, something else that's unconstitutional, like all of the other unconstitutional things he does, to then suddenly give residency, give status, give citizenship, whatever, to these people. They get put onto the voter rolls, and we'll see if that happens before 2024. Man, that would just be a wild situation. But Texas is doing something to stop it. And we had a couple reactions from Beto. Here's what he said. He says, Abbott is using the Texas Guard to defy a Supreme Court ruling, which is not even right, idiot. When Governor Fabus did the same thing in 1957, Eisenhower federalized the Arkansas Guard to ensure compliance with the law. Biden must follow this bold example, bold, decisive leadership to end this crisis before it gets worse. What is Biden going to do? Is he going to nationalize them? And who are they going to align with? We'll see where that goes. And of course, the federal government has a lot of leverage. They've got pensions, they've got money, they've got everything, right? Your healthcare access, your family, all your dependents, and all these things. So when the federal government just comes and swoops in there, people abide. So we'll see what they do. Now, the question, of course, is they're painted into a pretty bad corner right now, because if Joe Biden takes over the National Guard to open up the border, that's going to look insane, especially when immigration is such a big issue right now. And if he doesn't do anything, he kind of looks like a weak little weenie, because Greg Abbott just told him and the feds to get the heck out of here. So he's kind of stuck in a little bit of a way, and we'll see what they do. And they don't like that, right? They start to get ornery. People like Liz Cheney and the rest of the Democrats call this an insurrection. Maybe they'll start arresting Texas. So here is what Base Mike Lee said. He says, there is no ruling, Beto, moron, for Texas to defy. This was not an order. There was an order originally against DHS, not Texas. So SCOTUS vacated that order. So Texas, says Base Mike Lee, can't defy an order that, one, doesn't exist, and two, never existed in the first place. Please read something, Beto. Maybe if you read, you'd be a senator right now, but you're not because you can't read. So that's what was happening there. Now, 20 plus states have now joined in on this, and the dominoes are continuing to fall. Everyone is sick of this garbage. And you can see what states are on the list: Texas, Oklahoma, Arkansas, Louisiana, Missouri, Iowa, Nebraska, South Dakota, North Dakota, Montana, Wyoming, Utah, Idaho, Ohio, West Virginia, Virginia, Tennessee, Alabama, Georgia, Florida, South Carolina, and the great state of Texas and Oklahoma. Hopefully it didn't miss you. A lot of states and a lot of other states, I think, are jumping in on this as well, including Louisiana Governor Jeff Landry. He said he posted a video statement about this. He says, we fully support Texas. Here's this AG. Governor.
We support secure and safe borders, not open border policies that allow criminals, human trafficking, and drugs to pour into this country. We stand with Governor Abbott and Texas in reminding the federal government that under our Constitution, states are still sovereign, and we have the right to protect our citizens.
Okay, so protect your citizens. When the federal government fails and you're being invaded, you have to do something about it. This is what Ron DeSantis said when he heard the news. He posted a full video about this. I haven't seen much like this from Ron recently. He's acting like a human again. Here is what he sounds like.
Biden is going after Texas, saying that they must remove fortifications from their border. They put wire, they put things to keep people out. Biden saying you got to take that down to let people come in illegally, which is just crazy. And I remarked that if the Constitution was originally understood to mean that a state could not protect itself against an invasion, that the federal government could force a state to allow an invasion, the Constitution would have never been ratified in the first place.
Absolutely
Texas
right.
would have never joined the Union
Absolutely
when it
right.
did. And if you look at Federalist 46, which Daniel Horowitz pointed out, James Madison talks about situations where federal encroachment can be mitigated by state action. So you have Texas here that's holding its ground. They have every right to fortify the border vis-a-vis an invasion, and that's Article 1, Section 10 of the Constitution. So they're in the right. You also have a situation where liberal jurisdictions over many, many years have been sanctuary jurisdictions against enforcing federal immigration law. So you'll have somebody who's a criminal alien, they will not be given over to ICE, and they will deliberately act to frustrate the laws on the books, and somehow that's viewed as okay. You have Texas, who's acting to enforce the laws on the books, to ensure that they have a secure state and that we have a secure country. So all of this is just nonsense what Biden's doing. Texas has every right to stand its ground. In Florida, we've been sending people to help for many years now, because we understand it's not just a Texas issue, it's ultimately an American issue. And if we don't have sovereignty in this country, then we're not going to be a country anymore. So they have every right to hold their ground, to stay the course, and Florida will continue to be there helping out every step of the way.
Good. So it's nice to see that there are various governors. It's nice to see Ron back as in governor mode. Looks good. Sounds good. Making good points there. And we'll see what this ultimately means, right? If all of these states are jumping in, What does that, are they sending resources? Are they going to do the same thing? Are they also going to declare an invasion? Because we have a nice little framework right here, a nice little template that's been articulated. In fact, they can even just copy and paste the document. I don't care. Just copy and paste it, you know, just like all the Washington Post people. Copy it, paste it, just change Texas with Arizona. I'm cool. Let's do it. We got an invasion right here. We're one state over. We're right next door. It's the same problem. So we could do that here. Of course, we're run by lefty dementoids, so they're not going to be doing that. But Donald Trump has also responded to this, and this one is fresh out of the oven. And so let's grab this over from Truth Social and see what he said, because he posted a 2-pager on this. And he said the following, if I can find it. I just pulled it up on my other screen, so I know it's here. And here it is from Donald Trump. He says, when I was president, we had the most secure border in history. Joe Biden has surrendered our border and is aiding and abetting a massive invasion of millions of illegal migrants into the United States. Instead of fighting to protect our country from this onslaught, Biden is, unbelievably, fighting to tie the hands of Governor Abbott and the state of Texas so that the invasion continues unchecked. In the face of this national security, public safety, and public health catastrophe, Texas has rightly invoked the invasion clause of the Constitution and must be given full support to repel the invasion, saying we encourage all willing states to deploy their guards to Texas to prevent the entry of illegals and to remove them back across the border. All Americans should support the common sense measures by Texas authorities to protect the safety, the security, and the sovereignty of Texas and of the American people. Trump says, when I am president, on day one, instead of fighting Texas, I will work hand in hand with Governor Abbott and other border states to stop the invasion, seal the border, and rapidly begin the largest domestic deportation operation in history. Those Biden has let in should not get comfortable, because they will be going home. From Donald Trump. And we stand in support of the great state of Texas. I'm feeling very howdy. I'm feeling howdy right now. I'm feeling like I need to get a cowboy hat, because the great state of Texas is inspiring the rest of us with their action on this issue that is so sorely needed. And so cheers to the great state of Texas. We're going to be supporting you and hoping that the line can be held so that our country can stop the invasion. We're going to be here to continue to cover this, my friends. We're going to see how the Biden administration reacts, and I hope you join us as we do. Don't forget to subscribe wherever it is you're watching this, and we'll look forward to seeing you back here on the next one. All right. Yeah, can we join you, Texas? Can you please come, gobble up New Mexico and Arizona? We'll just be like one big conglomerate. All right. Anyways, now, my friends, it's time for Nathan's Hot Dog. Sometimes these segments, they just come to you and there's nothing you can do about it other than do the segment. All right. So stick with me. The first one's about 2 minutes, and then we're going to get into it. Fani Willis gets roasted with a Nathan's hot dog on the floor of a council meeting. You can see this woman is doing her best roast of the Fani, who is alleged to have made the Willis with Nathan Wade. Remember, Nathan Wade is the special prosecutor. And in Georgia, this woman showed up with a Nathan's hot dog. And here's what it sounded like on the floor in front of these Georgia officials.
My name is Fat Ass Sass and Crass No Class.
Whoa.
Fulton County. I'm incognito today, y'all, because the white folks is after me. I got a little bit of a PR problem. Natalie, you might be able to help me with. I could use the name of your PR firm. You know, the one that got you on the top 100 list? That's the kind of PR I'm looking for. You know, I know you'll understand that nothing and nobody comes between me.
Get it.
And my Nathan's hot dog.
Yeah, get it.
Yeah. Come on up in here now, my dark and lovely lunch. Oh, yeah. There you come on. Yes, my PR firm, all they tell me to do
Look at the size of that thing.
is take me to church.
Look at the size of that hot dog, man. That Nathan's hot dog is gigantic. Oh my goodness.
Yeah. Take me to church, I worship you, dog. You're the light of my life. Please forgive me my sins, but I would fall on a knife. You are my destiny, baby. Good God, just get rid of your wife. Take me to church, I go to work. I get my freak on. Take me to church, I write a check. They let me say a few words. Take me to church, I eat some crow and humble pie.
Okay, 40 seconds.
Take me to church, I write a contract. We're set for life.
Yeah,
Take
$1 million.
me to church, First Baptist, here I come. Take me to church.
Okay, wait.
Do we got to see the Catholics too? Are they on the schedule? Do I got to do everything? Take me to church.
15 seconds.
Taxpayer funded, unlimited expense account. Wee, you baby, that's what I like. Take me to church, even a light-skinned elitist like me knows. The darker the berries, the sweeter the wine. Take
Oh my
me
God.
to church.
Oh my gosh, he's still going. Okay, that might have been the biggest hot dog I've ever seen. I mean, that was massive. Was that a kielbasa? The heck was that thing? That was huge. Wow. All right. So she's pretty right about this. I mean, there's a lot of weird things going on. Nathan's hot dog showing up in a story about Nathan's hot dog. You know what I mean? And I don't really know what else to say other than shout out to this woman for just laying it all out there. Shout out for the performance. Beautiful song, beautiful rendition. And you're right. It is a ridiculous scandal, and it needs to be lampooned into oblivion. And she did a very nice job on that. So in addition to that, this gentleman came out and he was actually serious, right? He says, look, this is corruption through and through. And here is what he said when talking about Fani. This clip comes over from Charlie Kirk.
Good morning, Commissioners. Derek Blassingame. It is a pleasure and an honor to address you all today. Some of you all have made the comment this morning on my way in that he's done, he's through, it's over. Well, I want to let you know that Derek Blassingame, I'm done with Fulton County fumbling our elections. I'm done with the gross mismanagement of our taxpayer dollars by the Fulton County Democrats on this body. I'm disgusted at the information that is coming out of the district attorney's office as a taxpayer. I am done with most of your silence at the DA's apparent love affair with the special prosecutor and gross mismanagement of taxpayers' dollars to pursue what appears to be a frivolous lawsuit based off of partisan politics. Apparently, guys like me need to court Fulton County female executives if we want a free ride at all paid expense.
Yeah, man. Go find yourself the biggest Fani in Fulton County, man. She'll be your sugar mama. She'll take you on cruises. You can go to Napa Valley. You can go wherever you want, man. Get yourself a big Fani, man. If you can get that, $1 million, especially if you can prosecute your political enemies on top of it. You know, Fani gets Willis by Wade all over the Caribbean, all over Napa Valley. And then she goes and lectures everyone else about it, calling everyone racist for daring to criticize her love affair.
Apparently, we need to pursue Natalie Hall and Fani Willis, or maybe the executives in other departments, if we want a full ride and full pay.
Go get it.
The DA appears to be trying to protect past elections, but upon information and belief, she's trying to interfere with future elections by trying to convict a candidate before the general election.
Right on.
I'm requesting a financial audit to be done by the county auditor of the district attorney's office immediately. There is no way that you get more money when you're spending money, allegedly, for unnecessary and frivolous purposes.
Like cruises.
Also, these judges need to hire a lobbyist instead of grandstanding this board with these mediocre public relations stunts. Magistrate Court still needs a systemic boost and an IT transformation that's been achieved by the Superior Court clerk. It needs to be pulled together. 15 seconds. Thank you. Finally, I'm urging you to appoint Julie Adams to the Board of Registration and Elections without delay. And we need somebody that's transparent, that's open, and that can be open-minded to all concerns and can address the people's needs. I'm also want that audit of the DA's office immediately.
Yeah, immediately. I want that audit immediately. I love this guy. All right, so that guy was great. I want an audit immediately, and shout out to Julie Adams in Georgia. He wants her appointed to the board as well. We support Julie Adams, I think, too. So amazing. Another great conversation there in Fulton County. They are not happy at all, nor should they be. They got $1 million. Their biggest Fani took $1 million out of their derrieres and then gave it to Nathan's hot dog, 23-inch or whatever that thing was. Good Lord. All right, now here's another report from 11 Alive. In all seriousness, they're saying they're going to look into this because they have, theoretically misappropriated $1 million to somebody who's totally unqualified. And Fani was getting all of that back in the forms of gifts and cruises and so on. So here is what 11 Alive from Georgia says. They did a report and they spoke with this guy who is an actual state senator.
Yes, Republican Greg Dolezal from Cumming, Georgia, told us that part of his motivation is because the state of Georgia and the legislature specifically appropriates money which eventually ends up in the treasury of the Fulton County District Attorney's Office used for some expenses, and therefore that gives the state Senate standing to launch an investigation.
About $3 million of state money goes to Fulton County District Attorney's Office, and so we want to use our legislative authority to make sure that those tax dollars are being spent wisely, and there's a lot of questions around that.
Senator Greg Dolezal says the Republican-led state Senate should take a rigorous look at the office of Fulton County District Attorney Fani Willis, a Democrat. Willis's office persuaded a grand jury to indict former President Donald Trump and others in an election tampering case. It also hired special prosecutor Nathan Wade and paid his firm more than $600,000. A court filing alleged
that's an expensive hot dog.
As Willis has a personal relationship with Wade, a charge Willis has not answered. Dolezal says the Senate should use subpoena power to get answers from Willis and perhaps others.
The serious allegations that are out there as to whether or not this is prosecution for profit or there is some sort of inherent conflict of interest in the ongoing prosecution in Fulton County.
All right.
Dolezal's measure has the support of all the Republicans in the state Senate, which means that the bill is sure to pass there.
Woo, good.
Democrats say Dolezal is overstepping his bounds, that they don't really have, that this is not within their purview. And says that this is payback for Fani Willis's prosecution of the former president.
Georgia Republican lawmaker.
Yeah, it's payback because she's making Willis with Wade and misappropriating public funds to do it. And so Fani gets roasted. Nathan's hot dog, the star of the show out there in Fulton County. And my friends, we're going to be continuing to cover this saga, and we hope you join us as we do. Thank you for subscribing. Thanks for checking out robertgovea.com and signing up for our daily newsletter. We've also got our shop there. You can grab a new hat, grab a new shirt, support the show, and look great while you're doing it. And so, my friends, thanks for joining us. We'll see you back here on the next one. All right. And so we covered some good ground today, my friends. Fani getting roasted. Look at the size of this thing. Look at the size of that thing. What is that? That's bigger than a foot long, isn't it? That's not 12 inches. Nathan's make what, like 18-inch dogs? That's a lot. All right, we also got Texas declaring an invasion and rejecting federal government's border authority in our segment. And we did a full day of the trial transcripts, courtesy of our friend Intercity Press over on X. But now, my friends, it's time to hear from you. Thank you for the great support you're sending in via your super chats and your donos. It really means a lot to us here. And so we're going to wrap up here. As soon as we're done, go over to watchingthewatchers.locals.com for our members only after parties. We do member streams in the mornings. We do Saturday streams. We have a lot of great fun there, and it's a great community. So come check us out, watchingthewatchers.locals.com on the day. We had this one this morning from 1917 Beamer. Says Reid Hoffman is also E. Jean's funder. Yeah. So Reid Hoffman stopped funding Nikki Haley, evidently, and also is funding E. Jean. So I'm sure that funding is not dried up though. So thank you, 1917. Nice to see you. We got Voices here. Says the border thing isn't just a Biden policy, it's a UN policy. I sent you the document. Great replacement isn't a conspiracy. Yeah, I think you're right about that. I think somebody's paying for all these people to come here. Like, think about if it was China. Like, what would it, how many billions of dollars would it cost China to have a war with the United States? Like trillions, right? To have like a full-blown war. What does it cost them to just, I don't know, bring 1 million people over a year? Just on boats and stuff like that? Probably, I don't know, how much money? Can't be that much. A bunch of plane tickets, bus rides, you use NGOs. You just funnel people through. And a nation state can pay for it, take over a whole country without firing a shot. Texas crash to contrary is here. Says Texas is taking the lead. Time to buy a cowboy hat, Rob. Convince Rob to get a Watcher emblazoned hat on him. I know, man. I was like, I need to get a cowboy hat. Need to get some spurs and some boots. Gonna start saying howdy, y'all. Start saying yeehaw. Shout out to my friends in Texas. Is that what you guys do over there? You know I love you. All right. So Crash is here. We got Greg Cutler saying, hey, Rob, Greg Cutler here, not Abbott. Says, do you think this border dispute could be the catalyst for a civil war? Totally. Yeah, absolutely I do. Absolutely I do. And I think if you look at, think about something like Harper's Ferry, for example. If you look up Harper's Ferry in the Civil War, that was a pretty small dispute, actually, that was a big catalyst for the Civil War. And there was a guy called John Brown who went to go seize. He was a rabid kind of an abolitionist. And he went, Harper's Ferry was like this military fort. He took a couple guys there. They went to go seize the fort. It wasn't a big battle or anything. It was like, I think he had like 12 people on the other side. There was like 100 US Marines. And he lost that battle, obviously. And the Civil War hadn't started back then, but he became ultimately a martyr for the North, really. He was put to death, I believe, and then he was a martyr for the North. And that was a catalyst. It was like John Brown was in poetry, John Brown was in song. And so it really, kind of started the whole, in many ways, a lot of the cultural component of the Civil War. So I think that you could see something like that happening here. I hope that we don't have, a shooting war or any violence. Like that's a terrible thing. But if Joe Biden decides to do that because the state is protecting itself, yeah, I think that could lead to some serious problems. So good to see you, Greg. Great question. I hope that doesn't happen. We got this from Kay Fonten. Says, if Texas secedes, will Texans receiving Social Security forfeit their retirement? I would guess so. Yeah, I would think that they would. That's like a big deal. How are they going to go claw that money back from the IRS that doesn't exist? Like there is no money. So I think for something like that to happen, Texas would have to be able to build in a social safety net and provide for that transition because you're no longer getting money from the federal government. Glocky's here. Says, this is what I was wearing 23 years ago when Trump attacked me in a Bergdorf dressing room. Fortunately, that dress was not made at the time she says she was attacked. Knox says, happy Thursday, all. I love how the court artist made E. Jean look like a skeleton with a white mustache and gave her lawyer a humpback. Yeah, sometimes you can see how those sketch artists, how they're feeling. Sometimes Trump comes out looking bad. Sometimes Trump comes out looking pretty good. You can kind of tell what their politics are a little bit. We got Rocky Water says, woohoo, you go, Matthew Russell Lee. Bless your energy and dedication. I agree totally, Rocky. Shout out to Matthew Russell Lee at Inner City Press on X for making a lot of our work here possible. Knox says, normal women in the 90s read Cosmo, not Elle. Elle was about snotty New York City stuff. That sounds about right, Knox. I believe you'd have some expert, you would know about that because you're a normal woman. And I'm not. We got Glocky's here. Says, welp, Rob, the Democrats finally were able to do it. They were able to hire their brown shirts, Antifa, to the FBI with all its weapons and intelligence gathering capabilities. And Democrats have their own legit secret service. Stay safe, people. This is a breaking story from Patrick Webb. Interesting. We'll have to take a look at that one. Glocky shares some more. What's up? Dolphin fan is the man. Woo! Bringing in 20 new membos from Dolphin fan is the man. Dolphin, thanks for doing that, brother. Dolphin fan is the man in the House. And guess who's coming in? Opposing force, Tornado Sunflower. We got Gail G, Catherine H, James K's coming in. What's up, Taylor? Mark G, Beautifully Inappropriate, Richard G, Knowledge Tracker, Jason G, Prince Vibes, Danny L, Dyer Gnome, Mary P, Magic Sticks here, Irene A, Eric H, Nigel, and John S. All coming in courtesy of Dolphin fan is the man, bringing in the newest members in the House. And it's great to see you in the House. Thanks, Dolphin. We've also got another one. Let me see what this one is. Oh, it's a hot dog eating contest. All right, so this is a Nathan's hot dog eating contest, which we're not going to watch because these are kind of gross. But you can see what this guy's doing. He's eating a Nathan's hot dog. Kind of, I was going to say kind of reminds me of Fani Willis. You know, maybe she, anyways. All right, we got, Knox says, why isn't old Eugene suing Les Moonves, who also denied her allegations? Why won't anyone pay for that? Because it's not Donald Trump. Yeah, it's not Donald Trump. They don't really care about anybody who's not Donald Trump. Sandy says, this is day 3 of E. Jean Carroll on Card Sharks in the 80s. Loses the show on a sex question. Start the video at the 11:07 mark. I tracked all 3 days, and she used Jean Carroll back then, but episode proves it's her based on her employer as the magazine writer and other background. Interesting. Okay, Sandy, thank you for that. I'm going to take a look at that later, maybe for tomorrow's show when we wrap up with the testimony. We got B.H. Williams says, Rob, isn't it normal for an objection to be stated with the rule or whatever before the judge sustains or overrules? He said he wanted one word. So like objection, relevance, or objection, hearsay. Is this just a feature of the summary we are seeing, or is Kaplan overruling before even hearing the reason? Good question. Probably both. He's probably, I mean, from what we saw, he's absolutely cutting off Alina Abba. I would estimate that he's also waiting for her to make a statement after some objections. It's hard to tell, but yeah, you know, it's kind of like courtroom rules. The judge can field those however he wants, really, as long as it, you know, it's in alignment with the law. Sandy says Democrats were states in rebellion during the Civil War era, and now the federal government is in rebellion. History is in reverse. The case law to focus on for this is this invasion is ex parte Merriman, ex parte Vallandigham, ex parte Milligan. Language in 3 cases gives Abbott absolute authority to suspend habeas, to arrest traitors, including politicians, and to hold them until the invasion ends and either be tried in civilian court after Milligan. What a great comment, Sandy. That's some good research right there. Thanks for sharing that with us. And yeah, that's true, right? Like Lincoln didn't say that the states seceded. Like secession was illegal. You're in rebellion. You don't get to secede. This is all illegal. And I'm not even recognizing you as your own country. So we could see if Joe Biden did something like that. Stephen Mosher says, freshwater sharks and crocs. Freshwater sharks and crocs, from Stephen M. I see what you're saying. Yes, I see what you're saying. I know what this, yeah. I know, I'm like, what are you talking? Oh, yeah. In water, like if you found them in waters, like in rivers or in the ocean, you wouldn't want to cross if there was freshwater sharks and crocs in the water. That would make things dangerous to cross. I get you. We got Knox says, the feds picked the wrong state to mess with. Cliches aside, we all have guns here and we all love Texas. I know, man. Texas is great. I know. I'm going to get a cowboy hat and might move out there. We'll have to see how this goes. This old guy says, the joint resolution for annexing Texas to the United States, which was approved by Congress in 1845, says, third, new states of convenient size not exceeding 4 in number in addition to the said state of Texas, and is here entitled admission to the Union under provisions of the federal Constitution. One provision of that Constitution says no invasions. This one from Aldia. What's up, Aldia? Aldila. Thank you, Aldila. Says, great job, Rob. Thanks for saying that. Thanks for being here. Thanks for watching on Rumble. Thanks for being a member on Rumble. And thanks for the very nice donut today, Aldila. I appreciate you. Glocky McGlock is here sharing this image. This looks like it appears to be Amy Coney Barrett that says, you need to take this barbed wire down. Think of the children. And the Texan National Guard says, no, we're not doing it. Come and make us. Glocky says the Democrats and their propaganda ministry and rhinos have been pushing people's patience for years. They don't want this war to go hot because millions of Americans have a score to settle with DC and the media. The lies, gaslighting, treasonous actions, and behavior have pushed Americans past the brink. They don't want this, and they know it. Sandy says the best way to predict the future is to look at the past. Civil War era law and Revolution era law teach. John Roberts, not joking, was executed for treason for helping the Brits in the Revolution. I completely agree with that, Sandy. History doesn't necessarily repeat itself, but it certainly rhymes. And I think there's a lot of similarities now between what's happening and what happened now in the Civil War. Fred is here, says, what you talking about, Willis? What's up, Fred? Fred P. in the house and his rascally dog, Johnny. Good to see you guys. We got 1917 Beamer says, hot dog lady is nuts. Also, Judge Kaplan is in the bag for E. Jean. Yeah, I think both those are pretty accurate. Rocky says, man, I needed that hot dog lady. Thanks, dude. That's America, for better or worse, and I love it. It was really something. Yeah, it was something else. And I didn't know there was Nathan's Hot Dogs, and I didn't know that those things were so big. But it was definitely interesting. Oh, gosh. We're going to leave that one out. That's the Oscar. Oh, my gosh. Oh, no. All right. Beamer says, hot dog lady is nuts. We got that one. Glocky is sharing this, says, this is how corrupt Fulton County is. Fanny's friend just cost Fulton County taxpayers $1 million. Oh, yeah. So she filed a sexual harassment lawsuit, got paid $1 million, also out of taxpayer dollars. As long as she's getting paid. Sandy says, please change your nickname from Big Fanny to Dirty Fanny. It's more accurate because this case is full of crap. Oh, I know. But Dirty Fanny is like, that's just gross. It is gross. Yeah. Hey, here's breaking news. Says Biden administration responds to Texas. This looks like it's a video saying that Greg Abbott, okay, this is a video. I'm going to look for an official document. So they say that Biden has given Greg Abbott until 1/26 to return control. Here, let's just play this. This got clipped over from Drew Hernandez. Let's see what this says. Shout out to Drew.
Texas's razor wire is still here inside of Shelby Park. It remains untouched. However, the Biden administration has now warned Texas it has until tomorrow to allow Biden's border agents back into Shelby Park and the ability to remove Texas's razor wire as it sees fit. A federal attorney writes to Texas Attorney General Ken Paxton that the Supreme Court ruled in favor of the Biden administration, ending a temporary restraining order that prohibited Biden's border agents from touching Texas razor wire in and around Shelby Park.
Okay, but they don't have to give you access to it.
The Biden administration goes into detail about the access it wants. It wants access to Shelby Park, also the nearby boat launch and the international bridge.
Wow. Okay, so I'm going to see if I can find that document. Thank you for that. See what that letter looks like. And hopefully Greg Abbott tells him to get bent. A bad poet is here, says, like Ukraine, Fanny is distracting, calling it voter fraud. From a bad poet. What's up, Tara Rayner? Says, wonder if Fanny puts the money on the nightstand. You mean for her Nathan's hot dog? I don't know. No, she's paying for something. Not a Bot is here. Welcome as our newest supporter. Not a Bot. That's good. Nice to have you here. Welcome aboard. We got Alexandria on local says, is there any loophole that Texas could use to stop the federal government from their current endeavors? Like, could private businesses buy up the land close to the border, stack them with Connex containers, and cover them with razor wire, then even sue the government for destruction of that property? Or is there anything like Castle Doctrine that could be used to protect people who stand their ground? I'm sort of just spitballing here, but any ideas? It's a great idea, Alexandra. And there's been a lot of this stuff. So, for example, actually, I think right after Trump was elected, Steve Bannon and some people there had a private funding border wall type of effort that was in play. And I think they lost funding or something went awry with that. But like that's been tried. People just, let's buy up the land and build our own wall. We've also have people who actually live on the border, like George Allen Kelly, who was defending his property, and now they're charging him with a crime for homicide. So we also had in Arizona, the Minutemen, which was a group of people, I don't know, a decade ago, who went down to the border and just sat there and just observed. Like there's been many private things, but the border's so big, and ultimately the federal government, like I know this sucks, but the law says, and I think this is probably why the Supreme Court found in their favor, is that the government, the feds have like first priority at the border. If there's a border issue, it's theirs mostly. So that's why this thing with that Abbott is doing is such a big thing. He's saying, you have failed so completely, you are now out. It is now ours. It's a big move, constitutionally speaking, but there's been a lot of other efforts. And this one has been so frustrating to me because it's not that complicated. It's just a border. It's a physical thing. We don't have to get too complicated with it, but I got questions about whether they actually control the border, to be perfectly honest with you. I wonder if the cartels control the border and they're afraid of a full-out war that would embroil a bunch of Americans. Like maybe there's some other reason for this, or maybe they're all just corrupt. Defrauded says, please see my comments about the clinical research on flashbacks for victims of R, incest, and other things. Jean Carroll wrote about her early memories in a New York article called The Cut. I'm surprised that flashbacks did not come up during this trial. That's a good point. I'm trying to remember if they did during the first one either. Good to see you, Defrauded in China. Ian Mack says, does the Supreme Court decision on Texas make you nervous for the election decision? Yes. Wonder why else Haley would be sticking in. Yes, it does. Yeah, I don't have a ton of faith in the Supreme Court to find in favor of Trump. I mean, they should, but I get squeamish about the Federalist Society judges and all of these institutionalists. They're much more in favor of the government institutions than they are about somebody who's a wrecking ball who's going to come in and recreate some of that or reconstitute some of that power. So it does make me nervous. Yeah. And John Roberts, he's been very squishy for years. And now with Amy Coney Barrett, we don't know. We don't know. Pinochet says, if there is to be a Bouge Part 2, I'm leaving the communist state of Massachusetts and making my way to Texas to enforce the Constitution onto the lawless, seditious criminals in the federal government. From Pinochet's helicopter tours, I don't think you'd be alone, man. I think if Texas, is able to have a secure, safe state that is not overrun and invaded by illegal immigration, then that would be a very attractive place for people to live without all of the problems that are associated with illegal immigration. So I think a lot of people would move over there. Let's see what's going on. Oh my gosh, got an updated map for you. Look at this one. Shout out to Darkside Digital. Woo! This is even bigger than we thought. Guess who joined? Nevada, Utah, Idaho's in the fray. New Hampshire's on the board. Indiana's on the board. Who else did we not see last time? Wyoming's definitely in. Utah's in. Alaska's in. Whoo! Team America versus Team Undecided like to be overrun. I'm so embarrassed by Arizona. What is happening right now? I want to be Team America, man. That's all right. We got some work cut out for us then. This next election. Thank you, Darkside, for that. We got Danny's here saying not allowing Trump to talk is effed up. James says paying for eminent domain compensation. The feds pay Texas the cost of the invasion. Danny says Judge Areola and James Pepper's also in the house. We also got some friends. George Raven Madness is here. JB's in the house. Crypto Nerd says Texas is here. Deanna saying that was funny. And it's great to see you, my friends. Gregory says, will Biden use the War Powers Act to stop 2024 elections from happening if there's a war that breaks out on American soil? I don't know. Good questions. My friends, those were our friends on X. Don't forget to follow your friends on X. Retweet their stuff, like their stuff, share their stuff. It's how we all get connected out there in the wild. But that is it for us on the day. We are going to leave it there. and go on over to watchingthewatchers.locals.com for our members only after party. We would love to see you there as we debrief the show. But we've also got our website, robertgovea.com, where you can sign up for our daily newsletter and get all the show reports delivered to your inbox so you never miss a thing. We also have our shop there. You can grab a hat, grab a shirt. Great way to support the show and look amazing while you're doing it. We've also got Field of Greens. Links are down in the description below. Don't forget to use code Robert when you check out. Before we wrap it up, I want to thank our mods and our meme smiths who mod down the fort for us and keep things nice and orderly. Our friend Vienticus Prime, K-Beans in the house, Just Cause, Playin' Hooky, Ronnie Cole, Zulu's here, Beyond Geo, Zach Nichols, John Allen, Janik909, Dog Digger, Donut Mind Me, all modding down the fort for us, keeping things nice and orderly, and we have the best mods on the whole internet. Shout out to our meme smiths, Geegum Geegum, Nathan N810, and our friend Sleepy Dogly on X. But my friends, that is it for us on the day. We are going to be back tomorrow. Quick show note tomorrow. Probably is not going to be at the same time. It's probably going to be a later show, and it might be a short, compressed show because I have an event tomorrow that I'm going to go to. So I'm planning on a show provided that the event does not change, but it will be later in the evening than it is now normally because it goes until 4 p.m., which is when the show starts, before the show starts, after the show starts. So anyways, we'll figure it out. I'm going to keep you posted. It's going to kind of evolve organically. So make sure you're subscribed, and I'll post some updates tomorrow. But that is it for us on the day, my friends. We are going to leave it there and head on over to watchingthewatchers.locals.com. We hope to see you there. But if not, well, we're going to be back here tomorrow to get into it all again. And we need to see you right back here so that together, with your help, we can shine that big, beautiful spotlight of accountability and transparency down upon our system with the hope of finding justice. Make it a beautiful night, my friends. Sleep very well. We'll see you right back here tomorrow. Bye-bye.